Good evening. Today is Monday, August 17th, 2026. It's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the regular meeting for the Board of Selectmen to order.
Troy Lemire.
Kevin Bishop.
Paul Marino.
Paul Harrington.
Todd Archelashi.
Lauren Dombrowski.
William Hester.
Cheryl Heffernan.
William Pozo.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, agenda review. Does anyone have anything?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor, except when we get to correspondence, it was an email that you received today that you wanted to include in correspondence. It is in front of all of the board members' desks, so when we get there, there was one included in the packet, and then there's this additional one that came in today.
Thank you, sir. Item 4, approval of the minutes of a regular meeting on August the 3rd, 2026.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
Abstain.
601. Minutes are approved. Item 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Please give your name and address. Just make sure you turn the mic on.
Deb Kessler, 272 Gilbert Avenue. I'm here tonight to speak to you as the co-chair of the Winchester Historic Commission. We are a town commission that was established with a specific mission statement, one of several, but this one is to serve in an advisory capacity regarding historic properties and sites. And as such, I come to you because we're aware of the discussion regarding the renaming of a historic site in town. And as the Historic Commission, with that being our mission, we would like in the future to suggest that you come to us before you're considering such a monumental change. I wanted to point out that our town has suffered a lot of different types of losses to historic property over time. If nothing else, we can all think about 71 years ago this month, the 1955 flood wiped out half of our Main Street, which has redesigned what it is and has changed it dramatically. Go back 10 years earlier than that, 1945. The Board of Selectmen that year opted not to pay $5 for the Shadow Lawn building, which would have been, if, it's no longer there, it's gone. Didn't want it for $5, it got torn down, and we lost another tangible piece of our history that could have been a showpiece for the community. I don't know the year that the train depot was torn down, but again, that could have been repurposed as a historic commercial property. So I'm telling you all this because once they're gone, we can't bring them back. They're done. And I know that renaming a park, like East End Park, I know you're not looking to physically change the park, but by rebranding it, renaming it, you're changing its history and taking its history away from it. East End Park has been where it is and referred to as East End Park since colonial days. It serves as a historic place. It helps to tell the story of our community. We're a community that had a very distinct East End and West End, and it plays a role in that conversation when you're looking at our history. I should note that it's also part of a recognized National Registry of Historic Places. And as such, that's in the National Registry. And we are in the process, the Historic Commission was tasked with wayside signs. There will be wayside signs on the green referring to it as East End Park. So I really urge you to, be considerate in what you're thinking about, that if you want to respect the history of the town, leaving it as it is currently named and has been, as East End Park, is very important. Its existence tells part of our historic story. I know there are a lot of suggestions being talked about of other alternatives. And one that, taking off my historic commission hat from me personally, would be to consider we have a bandstand in the park. It's not the bandstand I'd like to see there, because I'd love to see the Victorian gazebo that we no longer have. But you could consider the possibility of naming the bandstand, which does not, to my knowledge, have a name. But once again, I just would please ask that, when there is something that pertains to history in the town, that you come to us so that we can have a say in the conversation. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Virginia Schultz-Schredt, 78 Wetmore Avenue, Winston, and town manager and selectman. You got your packet information that I had given you, and I just wanted to give you a little taste before that, when this was used as a veterans thing. Political activism did divide the community during the War of 1812. Interestingly, in this second war with the British, the two parties reversed themselves in their time-honored argument of federalism versus states' rights. The Democrats during this conflict were the party of nationalism. The state flag was then the supreme object of federal worship. In 1814, the village green in the eastern portion of town, now this is when it was gravel and then the road came through, but the church was still there, was the scene of some degree of violence, as it took some minutes to detach the Democratic fingers from the federal throat when a newly erected Liberty pole flying the national flag appeared to be an affront to a parade of newly recruited state troops, along with cavalry and an infantry unit arriving for their training day exercises. The flag was ordered down, but Democrats stood in the way. A Democrat grabbed the throat of the axeman, but a nearby fence filled with seated spectators came crashing down, disrupting the maneuvers. The militia was marched off without the honors of war, and the Star-Spangled Banner continued to wave until sunset. Physical restraint was not the only means utilized to keep the Federalists from tearing down Liberty poles during the war. A small field cannon purchased from Litchfield, a relic of either the French and Indian War or the Revolutionary War, was brought into service to protect the symbol of the nation. At a later period, it was used in an attempt to break up meetings of abolitionists. But women went and buried that damn cannon. So that it couldn't, because they used to break windows of people's houses that were in a different party. So we don't want to go back to those days. And the women of Stockbridge, Massachusetts in 1853, and then started Village Improvement Society, and then that spread to other towns in New England. The mission of these societies was to improve the quality of life by improving the environment, particularly in the town centers, for the public to enjoy. Improvements were made in the East Village after Winston was designated as a borough by the state legislature in 1858. And their first warden mayor was William H. Phelps, son of a prestigious doctor and a U.S. congressman, and his wife, Lucy Wakefield Phelps, also the progeny of a well-known physician. They purchased a magnificent Victorian fantasy on the west side of the town green, complete with a widow's walk and gargoyles. It is still there, sadly, without the gargoyles. The only problem was that the view.
Can you start to wrap up here over 3 minutes?
Oh, okay. So the only problem was the view from the marvelous home looked upon a green that wasn't particularly green. In fact, it was a gravel, muddy road. So they built all this sidewalks, improved streets, renovated the Winston Green. And this was instituted not through taxation, but by fundraising. So it was, they built a circular bandstand. John Philip Sousa played there. The fountain was added, and a drinking fountain. And community college commencements have been held there. Firemen's carnivals have been held at the park. Community kings and queens have been crowned there. So therefore, the park celebrates all the many people in the town, past and present. One constituency should not be singled out as being more deserving than all the population. That was never the purpose of this very historic Winston Green East End Park.
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, we'll help you come up with an alternative.
Who else wishes to speak?
Janice Roy, 13 Colony Drive. I'm here as a representative of Winchester Historical Society. I'm their current president and curator. I've been with them since 1993. Born and raised in Winsted. Dad was the town historian, so this town is very special, very, very special to the area and to a lot of the residents. As a board, your primary responsibility is to preserve the history of this community. It's a very unique history with a lot of manufacturing. We were the last in the area to be established because no one thought that this was a viable area. With all of our mountains, wasn't very much arable land. But as soon as they decided to check on the water power, we're off and running. Of course, as was said, we have had our problems through the years, but we're now on the upswing. Our history is what has grounded us through the years. And it's a very, like I said, it's a very unique town, and we need to preserve that. The Green, it has many, many stories, and, you know, through Virginia and, you know, the Soldiers Monument Commission, we're all digging up the stories. You know, the cannon that we have has been fired off down at the park. There have been a lot of political rallies down there. There's been so many celebrations, and to change the name at this point, and at any point, would actually destroy the history of, you know, what was set by our forefathers. They established it under a certain name, and that's what it should remain. So I urge you to take that into consideration, please. And come, give me a call and come visit up at the historical. We're open until October 15th, but appointment only. Because we used to have established hours, but then people would show up at 3:30 wanting a full tour, and it takes a good hour and a half. So come and see us.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I was gonna ask you that question because as a young man, my aunt and uncle lived next door to the Historical Society. And we were all firemen at the firehouse right next door. And I used to go in there, there was a woman that lived there, and she would let us go in, and as a kid, I went through
Mrs.
there
Radigan, yeah.
many, many times.
Yes.
And I've heard through the grapevine that people are saying that it's very hard to get into the Historical Society to go see it. So I was just, you answered my question with the appointment thing, I didn't.
Okay.
But that's how you do it.
If people would call and leave a detailed message or a message that I can understand, a lot of times people talk very, very quickly. They don't understand how quickly they speak. I had a call this morning. Someone left a message and they're in town, and she said that they'd like to come for a tour. Call me back. She did not leave me a phone number. We don't have caller ID. So that's another charge on the phone. So we keep our expenses down. But if you call and leave a message, I'm fairly open as far as for times. I can usually arrange a docent to be with me within a couple of days. Usually there's two of us. It takes about an hour and a half or so to go through. We've made a lot of changes over the last, since Millie has passed. Millie's primary focus during her 15 years as president was the manufacturing. So we got that finished in the carriage house. But I've added quite a few things since then and worked with all of our staff. They're all volunteers. We've added a police department. It's almost done. We've revamped the fire department area that came up to us from the Ted Vail Museum. So, like I said, we have reenactors that come, the Civil War reenactors, and we've had up to 4.5 hours of people, you know, as far as just poking through. because there's an awful lot to see
There is.
in the
I
library.
haven't been there in decades, and I appreciate you explaining that to the folks that are watching, so they know.
I know your mom. I worked in the schools. I was the superintendent of school secretary for 36 years, so I know your mom quite well. Lovely lady.
Yes.
And your dad. Your dad was the bus driver and the milkman.
And the milkman, yes.
Come- come-
Paul had a question?
Ms. Roy, if I may, and I got your email from the mayor today, and in fact, me and Terry Hall, who works up in the office as well, discussed all the great information that you put in your email, more or less the contact information, and we discussed putting it on the town's website. I didn't want to do that without your permission. And I would have grabbed you after the meeting, but sometimes people leave before I have the opportunity. So we can talk later if you want, you can answer the question now. Would you mind, and what number could we list on our website for people that want to take tours? Because we do get asked that question a lot in our office as well. What's a good number that we can list on the town's website?
The 379.
The 379-8433? Okay. And
I'm in and out just
Leave a
about
message?
every day.
Yep, fine. What about an email
I was gonna
address?
say, is there an email?
Do you mind if we put your, I'm not going to say it publicly, but the email address, your AT&T?
I'd rather not.
Fine. Not a problem. Put the phone number.
But we're getting with the 21st century. Give us another couple of moments.
Okay. That's fine.
An email would be great, because that would be easy for people to
Yes, it would.
try to make reservations. You wouldn't have to try to write down the fast talking.
Well, I need to chat with people because a lot of people don't realize we are not handicap accessible. And we have two difficult staircases. Our front staircase, the railing is very, very delicate. As carpenters have seen it, and they said that's, don't put any pressure on that because it's 200 years old.
Right.
So we have to explain to people that there's no cell phones. You can't bring your dog with you. You can't bring your cat, your security cat with you. We have had requests. So like I said, we are progressing. There's
Do you allow
things-
photographs?
Pardon?
Do you allow photographs inside?
No.
Okay.
Because some of our things are still owned by families in town, and their grandchildren basically they've kind of re-upped the agreements with us. So nothing in the house is photographable. You can't touch anything in the house. And we try to keep the tours to 4, 6 at the very maximum, because everybody has questions. And you start losing track of people. Some people in the group may not be interested, so they try to go on to another room. So keeping a group together it's difficult.
Maybe we can put some of the items that she just mentioned on the website with it, in
Got my
terms of
notes.
accessibility and.
I'm working, I chatted with the Historic Commission about it, and I do have something just about set. It's not exactly nebulous, but it speaks to, we do have kind of an overview of what the town produced through the years. You're walking into a Victorian house. And to be truthful, our last open house was over 15 years or so ago. We had 20 docents that day. We had people in every room watching people. One of our rooms, we had 3 tables with postcard albums. End of the day, we're cleaning up. One of those postcard albums was missing. It was a 3.5-inch red notebook filled with about 200 postcards. And somebody managed to walk off with it, even though all of us were watching. We also lost 2 spoons and a candlestick. So, and that was with everybody watching. So in open houses, being a delicate house, I don't want to say people are overweight, but we do have to watch people as far as if they start to lean on things. Our furniture is, I do go around with the glue once in a while to take care of loose joints, because it is humidity controlled in there, but things do dry after a while. So
We're starting to get a little off topic, so.
oh yes, I'm sorry. Let's get back to work here. So I will get that, as far as ready for you, as far as, like I said, I had chatted with the Historic Commission, as far as my little paragraph for you to upload,
Thank you.
okay?
I look forward to seeing you this weekend. We have an appointment with a few people from the Cultural District Commission that are coming to see
So
you.
you're one of the guests that's coming on Sunday. Yeah,
See you then.
yeah, Laura hadn't let me know yet, so.
And you said till October 15th, right? You're open.
Open till October 15th, yes.
Just a suggestion, is there any way that we can give the Historical Society a town website that people could, and then that she would be able to access?
Town email, you mean?
Yeah,
Because it's not going to be.
I mean, it's a town thing, right? There
Well,
is a
no, it's
commission.
not, we
I
are,
know you're not connected, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
it would be for the residents. It would, just like we have a selectman email through the town, and people could get through you through that, and then you could access that
well, that's,
without using your own personal thing.
I have talked to the board about that, as far as access, and when it came up as far as getting us on the website. We're gonna,
Paul and Terry can work on that during the week.
Let's you and I sit down.
I don't wanna be
Yeah.
rude, but let's.
Yeah.
let's
They wanna
let's
go a
stay
little bit
by
slower.
ourselves. Let's not muddy the water.
Yeah.
But thank you, I appreciate that.
Let's you and I make an appointment. We'll sit down. We can
Thank
talk.
you.
I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks, Ms. Roy.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, Stephen Molinelli, 450 East Wakefield Boulevard. I also chair the Inland Wetlands Commission. I came before you last month to talk about the proposed change in the ordinance 162, which sort of governs the scope and sequence and the involvement for the Inland Wetlands Commission. And one of the suggestions I made was to reach out to different agencies or experts to try to determine the validity of some of the requests or proposed changes to the ordinance. And I'd like to thank the mayor who took the initiative, or the town manager, excuse me, who took the initiative to reach out to a renowned lawyer who talked about the inappropriateness and the illegalities of the request to allow for the switch over from inland wetlands to planning and zoning, but more specifically, to allow for the approval or the consideration for approval of a dock beyond 40 feet. And the lawyer in question, you have a letter in your file tonight, talks about the inappropriateness of that, and that DEEP absolutely forbids under any circumstance the request to extend the dock beyond the 40 feet. And I'd like to point out that, in my opinion, I think this request was made by a particular selectman who lives on the lake and who was limited to a 40-foot dock. And I think it would personally benefit that selectman if this change were made and allowed. And I'm glad that the town manager researched it enough to the point where I hope it's put to rest as a result of that letter and any other information that he or she has gathered for you, and any individual research that you've made. So again, to the town manager, thank you. I don't know if it's appropriate to answer any questions, or only because of this discussion that just went on.
It'll be a topic later on in the
Okay,
meeting,
thank
so
you.
we'll take care of it then. Anyone else wish to speak?
Brian Sunday, 152 Spencer Hill Road. I just wanted to stop by and mention a couple of things I saw over the last few days that bothered me. As you likely know, many folks in town are excited about this study that's called the Future Study. I'm not sure that I call it a study. I'm not sure if it's the final study or not. I've seen the contract. I don't know if all of you have seen it, but the way it's presented on the agenda, it doesn't indicate whether it's a draft, whether it's preliminary findings. The document itself doesn't say it. So I don't know if it's the final study or not. I hope for the residents of Winchester and taxpayers, it's not the final study, because really there's nothing in it. And I do have plenty to say about problems I see in the study, which, you know, I'll certainly watch tomorrow night and do it after the fact at some point in the future. But, you know, I did want to point out one thing in this document that really bothered me, and I'm going to say it, and I know some of you are going to say that I'm overreacting, but I've been around the block a while. I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm also not stupid. There's a slide in the back of this document, right here, which for me tells you what this document's all about. Completely unnecessary, and I'll read it for folks in the back and for folks here who haven't seen it. Completely unnecessary. There's some graphics here, one of which is a headline from 1994. Mayor faults Gilbert School on finances. All right, then there's a lead about 7.9% increase over the current year's spending plan in the school budget. And then it was the Gilbert School's finances that ultimately drew the ire of the mayor, and he suggested the school board go out to bid for an education contract. This is completely unnecessary, without question. I'm in the messaging business. I know exactly what they're doing by putting this slide in this document, without question. So that really upset me when I saw it. Like, I'm happy to see a study, but when you're editorializing and your contract and everything else, you're saying it's an objective study, X, Y, and Z, not objective in any way. I know where these guys are coming from. And really, frankly, it proves what I sort of felt all along. This was going to be a study that was going to get to the point where some people on the Board of Education wanted to go. So that aside, I also saw a Facebook post this afternoon from a selectman on the board who says, hey guys, it's time to rally around. We have to come together. We have to have this study. Like, as if this is going to be the rallying point for us to come together when you've got stuff like this in it. So, again, I'm super disappointed by this and frankly a lot of other stuff that's in this document. And the idea that we're supposed to come together, you know, with a serene Facebook message, you know, based on things like this, other lies that people say about the Gilbert School, frankly, some of which, you know, one big one I heard come from this board. So the idea that we're going to come together and reset ourselves around this, for me, is somewhat laughable. And finally, I just wanted to say one other thing that I found interesting during the last Board of Education meeting, and I don't know if folks saw it, but you know, in June they were projecting they would have a $4,000 surplus. They take the meeting off, you know, take the summer off, which a lot of boards do. You miss a meeting in July, it's fine. They come back in August. Lo and behold, they have a $248,000 surplus. And guess what? Now they're making a plan to spend the money. Now listen. Folks who know me, I like to spend the money on schools. I've argued with several of you about it in the past. I probably will do in the future. But I gotta say, that jump from $4,000 to $248,000, I have questions about it. And frankly, there weren't many questions asked during that meeting. So, you know, for folks like me who like to go out and say, hey, I want to spend more money on schools, it's situations like that. Situations like that I think raise questions among the general public and frankly undermine efforts by people like me, Selectman Bishop, or anybody else to get school budgets passed. So, and I do just want to say I agree with the folks who say East End Park should continue to have that meeting. So thanks, appreciate it.
Anyone else wish to speak? Item 6, Town Manager's Report.
Can you just turn that microphone on, please? Thank you. Good, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, board. Quickly, I'll run through. Recently, social media was quick to point out the state of Connecticut road signs were directing drivers in the wrong direction. The town received several phone calls, and in fact, the town was blamed for putting those signs the wrong direction. I'm here to tell you that we have contacted the state of Connecticut. We did not put the signs up. We would clearly know where our schools are. And because it's in the state's right of way, we are not permitted to go in and take that sign down, turn the sign upside down. And I'm not looking to place, yes I am. I am putting the whole entire blame on the state of Connecticut. The town did not put the sign in the wrong direction. It was the state of Connecticut. As soon as we were alerted, we did call the state. But in order for us to do anything in the state's right away, we need what's called an encroachment permit. But we just told them to go out and fix their mistake that they did. So I wanted to clean that up really quick, and it's going to be an agenda item later on. But the speed camera program, we're going to discuss later. That we're still waiting for the required encroachment permit, which I just mentioned about it's even entering the right of way, but we'll talk a little bit more about the speed camera update later on. The EMS chief's position, if you remember back when we were going through the budget, we have officially posted the EMS chief's position today on the town's website and on other boards. If you remember, that savings alone of bringing in a chief netted us about roughly a $200,000 savings in the entire EMS line of what we were spending in the years prior. But I want the residents to know that as we move through the process, the safety, health, and well-being of our residents will remain at the forefront of our decision-making. But look for interviews to start soon as applications start coming in. Bar grant consultants were in Winchester, excuse me, last week. They met with a range of community members, owners of the buildings, organizations, stakeholders, and town representatives. I was amazed that that same Thursday, when they were in town hall up until 4 o'clock, they walked over to Little Red Barn and had a full presentation of everything that they learned that week. They were able to turn it around that quickly. They're now taking all of that information that they've gathered from 4 days being here every single day, all day long, putting their knowledge to it, and then coming up with the final report. And that final report will allow us to now tap federal and state grants to try and unlock some of these legacy buildings and finally get them remediated and active again. Lead service line inventory referendum, that is tomorrow. Keeping in mind, we did post it on our website and on social media. The town's question is asking for just over $1.5 million in authorization to be borrowed, but, and it's a big but, 1.3 million will be forgiven, but by Connecticut law and the way this all works, we have to go out and get it authorized by our residents. But if it does get authorized, we will get a $1.3 million forgiveness of the 1.5, and the remaining balance will be at a low interest rate payable over 25 years. So it's important to come out and vote. This is something that is being required by the FDA. We have to do this. So there's two options. Either A, we use the state drinking fund and subsidize the 1.8 million and get $1.3 million worth of work done that's going to be forgiven, or we turn around and have to spend the entire $1.8 million because we have to do this lead service line. So it's important you come out and vote tomorrow. It's important that we get this through, because without it, we still have to do the work. We have an opportunity to get at least $1.3 million forgiven of the $1.8 million work that we have to do. Well, thank you. Moving on, Thursday night, we have a town meeting at 5 o'clock to discuss two town-owned properties, 17 Birdsall and 82 and 84 Rockwell. Winston Fireman's Carnival coming up this weekend. Please come out. Fireworks on Friday, parades on Saturday. I do plan on coming up Saturday with the kids, so don't hold it against me if you see my kids running around. I am a dad too, but this weekend it's such a great, fun event for our entire community and for families and for people that don't have families, because who doesn't like a good carnival ride or cotton candy and candy apples? This past Tuesday, last week, the Water and Sewer Commission adopted the 27 budget, so congrats to them. The approved budgets are available on the town's website. Additionally, our rate study consultant will be looking further into the ratepayers and deciding exactly what we're going to do with rates. We brought in consultants from Woodward and Curran to look at the current rates that we're charging on water and sewer and trying to figure out a better way of billing everybody. That report is still coming.
Question, ratepayer versus taxes that we pay, what's the difference?
Let me answer. So when you're asking, ratepayer is anyone that gets a water bill or a sewer bill. And then the taxes are something, you know how you get billed separately. You get billed for water and sewer, and then you get billed. So for the referendum, any resident in the town of Winsted can vote on it. But the ratepayer is the one that just pays water and sewer. But if you're on...
Not the tax bill we get so many times.
No, not the tax bill, no.
So a ratepayer gets a separate bill for the use of water.
Correct.
I've never gotten that.
Do you have a well? What's your address?
No, I've always wondered about that. I mean,
Okay.
I would wonder.
And a lot of talk prior to the meeting beginning. The elevator is finally working after 2 weeks of absolute aggravation and not hearing back from Otis Elevator. Terry Hall, can't say enough great things about her. She came to me on Friday and said, hey, let's email the company's CEO and see if we get a response. And we did on a Saturday, and guess what? They were here at 7:30 this morning and got it done. So elevator is properly working. I will tell you that it wasn't from a lack of effort on the town staff. We emailed and called them every single day. They were not returning our call. When we emailed and contacted the CEO, we had action immediately. So congrats to the CEO of Otis Elevator. You took care of us. Prior to me coming down here, literally 5 minutes before me walking down, so please don't ask me many questions on this, the governor did announce $10.6 million in special ed grant. The town of Winchester did receive $350,000 from the governor's announcement today. That grant is meant for capital expenditures and to create programs to potentially bring some of our outplaced kids back into town. So congrats to Winchester. I don't have much information other than the big press announcement that I got right before I got down here. And last but not least, if you didn't hear anything I said in my report, this is the one thing I need everyone to listen to. Schools are opening next week. I need everyone to be a little bit more careful when they're driving. Kids will be out starting next week. Take a little extra time. Make sure you're stopping at stop signs, stoplights. There will be kids on our streets because schools are going back next week. With that, I turn it back to the board.
Questions from the board?
Do you know how the ballot reads for tomorrow's water, lead?
I do, but I can't see it because the ballot is actually hanging just outside the registrar's office, and the question is available on our social media page and our town's website.
Do you know if does the question talk about the reimbursement or the?
It does not. Bond council does not. What it says is to authorize $1.5 million in spending to be defrayed by any grant. Somebody said it can't say that we're going to get 1.3 because there's no guarantee, but we have.
So we have to get that message out.
We have to get the message out. The message out. You'll see that we've before the actual question, we've said that the state's clean water fund does plan on reimbursing the town $1.3 million or forgiving $1.3 million of a $1.8 million ask or $1.5 million ask. But the question on your way out is available on the wall just outside the registrar's office and available town's website or social media pages.
Just so you know, sorry, Paul. It's the Clean Water Act is for the sewer. It's the state revolving fund is the water. So it's only the water users that are going to be paying when this thing hopefully does pass. That's all that's going to be paying. The water and sewer can't borrow money on its own. They need the town to borrow the money for them. That's in the charter. It's not allowed. But all the taxpayers pay on it because if the water department or the sewer department fails to pay it back, the town's responsible for it. That's in the charter. That's just the way it works. And it is mandated by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency for the country, and the Department of Public Health, the DPH is the one that's pushing this. So,
Other questions from the board?
We do need to all work to get our friends out to vote tomorrow because my favorite comment on one of the town posts on this was, well, that's clear as mud. So I think we really need to make sure people know that, about the reimbursement especially, it is a big number on there.
I'm sorry, point of order. This isn't a question and answers. I'm sorry, guys. We'll take care of it, but this isn't a question and answer. Sorry.
Other questions for the town manager from the board?
Just one question. So the bar grant about the Mad River, I had the opportunity to attend one of their events. When is the final report coming?
Final report probably won't be to us until 2027. So first quarter of 2027. Yeah.
I was actually at the Little Red Barn for that presentation, and it was a quick turnaround. And it was quite exciting to see what their plans and their thoughts are, especially on the Willow Street area up there, to make it a destination, and that's what the town needs, is to be a destination place to go.
Three questions.
Ooh, three.
Start with the first one. Is the state work on 44 almost completed?
Eversource.
You're talking Eversource?
Eversource.
Yes, yes. The goal is to have them off of 44 and pavement down before the snow flies.
508 Main Street, what's going on there?
Let me follow up with the developer. I know the demo permit has been pulled, and let me see, I know he was signing contracts with the demolition crew. Let me see if he's got a tentative start date.
Okay, the third one, speed cameras, where are we at with that?
It's further on.
Further on down on the agenda, as I stated, that we are still waiting for the encroachment permit from DOT. And then we'll talk a little bit more about speed cameras later on the agenda.
Good enough.
Item 7, Finance Director's Report. The Finance Director is absent tonight. Taking her place, Town Manager Harrington.
Pulling a lot of duties tonight. Okay, so this is the June 30th, 2026, so the close of the 26 fiscal year. Preliminary recap, these are still being looked at, you know, invoices are trickling in. They should be pretty much turned off by now, but as we stand right now, current property taxes collected, $29,340,783, which compared to budget was 100.52% in relation to $27,556,410 from last year. Motor vehicle supplemental, $300,032, 85.72%. We did miss that by about 14% compared to last year of $305,207. Past due taxes, $357,60, 100.22% of what was budgeted compared to last year at $412,106. Total revenues, $42,250,160. That is 103.01% over what we had originally targeted for our revenue. A lot of the additional revenues that came in that was unaccounted for was the sale of town-owned property. The big one being the bachelor school, but this board and prior boards, we are putting out a lot of the town-owned properties. And as our finance director did say during the budget time, she never thought it was a good idea to put that into our budget because we're unsure if the property is going to sell. So one of the reasons why we're having, you know, tremendous increases or showing tremendous increases in our revenues compared to budgets is that a lot of it has to do with sale of town-owned property. On the expense side of things, currently $41,295,017, 100.68% compared to budget. So you're probably thinking we overspent on the expenditure side. We didn't, and I'm going to explain that when we go a little bit further. Compared to last year at $40,279,996. Municipal aid received in June was just the Pequot pilot money of $16,491. Right now in our general fund, we have $19,038,481 as of June 30th. $17,353,651 is invested. Northwest Community Bank Sweep, $460,464. STIF, State Investment Account, $2,662,747. And Northwest Community Bank Money Market, $14,230,440. It is important to note, and I have to give kudos to former Selectwoman Perez. I've been in municipal government for far longer than I wish to say. And I always believed the finance director when they gave me numbers. She says, Paul, why don't you look at a bank statement? So I actually can tell you that the money that I've just read, I have actually seen the bank statements that show that money is in the bank. I know we have a tailored pass, we're way beyond that, but I'm telling you right now that every one of those dollars that I read to you, I've seen the bank statements that back that those dollars are actually sitting in the bank. So your money is there where it should be. Moving on, capital expenditures for June. I'm not going to go through the entire list, but this is available on our Board of Selectmen packet. But really quick, $63,932 for the Next Gen Records Management System. We are now currently running on the new Next Gen system down in our police department. $50,000 annual LoSEP funding road repairs. $42,500 Safe Streets for All roadway action safety plan. Spring Street is part of the bond, $95,858. West Wakefield, $2,000. Drainage, $9,057. So combination of some capital expenditures. Now, I want to get to the fun part. So as I mentioned earlier, our revenues collected were just over 3% of where we should have been on budget. Our expenses, actually, we want to back off the $750,000 that we had in for our capital upgrades. So we actually came in at 98.9% of the budgeted expenses. So even though the budget was approved, and we could spend up to all of those dollars amount, the town every single day makes sure that we are being very wise with the money that we are given, and we actually spent a little bit less than what was approved at 98.9%. What does that all mean? Right now, for fiscal year 2026, operating surplus, $1,680,143 is what we have extra in revenue and what we didn't spend on the expenditure side. We need to then take out $725,000 because when we did the budget process, we said we were going to use $725,000 of our savings account to pay for some capital items. But because we have roughly $1.7 million in surplus, we actually do not need to take from our savings account. We can use the additional revenue and we can use the surplus money in our expenditure side. All that means is at the end of the close of June 30th, 2026, we're gonna turn in $955,143 to our savings account. So our savings account isn't dropping by $725. Our savings account is actually gonna grow by just about $1 million. With that, I'll open it for questions.
Questions from the board? Got off easy. Item 8.
Oh, I do want to point out to the board and also to our residents. So in the finance packet that we included online, we did fund 179 capital projects. You can see exactly where we stand on each particular item of the budget, and these are going back all the way to 2010, 2018, and you can see, and we have a very unique ordinance that we need to go back out to the voters to ask them to reallocate that money. And let me give a great example, because this one we talked about earlier today. Back in 2022, we roughly put aside $180,000 for the revalve. We spent $118,548. There's $61,452 sitting there unspent. I have tasked the finance office, by the time we get to the next budget process, I want a complete list with actual real dollars amount of money that we can then reallocate, ask the Board of Selectmen and ultimately the voters to go buy some more capital items with money, because the 2022 revalve is over. We're not gonna spend the $61,000. Here's another great example, is when you look at the fire truck, there's $66,047 in the fire truck line. We've all seen the new ladder truck. We're not going to spend the $66,000. Let's get concrete numbers, let's bring it to the Board of Selectmen, let's bring it to the voters, reallocate that money and go buy some more capital items. Now I'm done.
Item 8, correspondence. In the packet, we have correspondence from Shirley Allshouse about the dock ordinance, and we have the correspondence that I had on your desk tonight from Janice Roy about the renaming of the park. Does anyone have any other correspondence?
I'm going to comment, Mr. Mayor, because
sir.
of the quick question I asked Ms. Roy earlier this evening. I am not going to include this with our minutes because there is personal information on it, but we're going to sit down and work together. So this will not be included in the minutes. Obviously, this will be, but because of personal information, I'm going to, if the board's okay with that, restrict that from our minutes. Everybody good with that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Item 9, boards and commissions. Selectman Poso, Selectman Bishop.
All right, so we have one resignation by Joy Hubbard, resigning from the Recreation Commission. Thank you for your service. And we have 3 new appointments. The first one, I will make a motion to appoint Tess Herman to the Inland Wetlands Commission, Party's Democrat, for a member seat, finishing off Jeff Lippincot's term, which ends in April of 2028.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Cheryl. Any discussion? All in favor? 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Abstaining? So
You're
4.
opposed or abstaining?
Opposed. 4, 1, 2.
4, 1, 2.
Yep. Member seated. Next.
All right, another appointment of Stacy Whitman to the Cultural Commission. I just want to make a note that Stacy is actually not a resident in town. She lives in Torrington. However, under the rules for the Cultural Commission, you have to be you have to work in town or live in town, and she's, the owner of the Curious Cat Bookstore, so she qualifies for this seat. So I make a motion to appoint Stacy Whitman to the Cultural Commission.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 601. Member seated. Next.
All right, we have another person in the same situation. Teresa Canavo is also, wants to be appointed to the Cultural Commission, also a resident of another town, but works at Whiting Mills. So fulfills the requirement for that board. So I move to appoint Tracy Canavo to the Cultural Commission.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 601. Members seated.
All right, that's all. I just want to say, since we have a bunch of people here, that we have a lot of vacancies. We have vacancies on the ad hoc Water Level Committee, Architectural Review Committee, Conservation Commission, Cultural District Commission, Economic Development Commission, Ethics Commission, Historic Commission, Housing Authority, Laurel City Commission, Planning and Zoning has one alternate seat, Recreation Board, and Zoning Board of Appeals. So please get involved and apply to help out the town and be on a board or commission.
Thank you. Item 10, new business. A, 26-43, proposed 25-26 year-end line item transfers, recommended by the Director of Finance, Town Manager Harrington.
So as we do every year around this time, this is the end of the year. There may be one or two as we go through the audit. The audit has officially begun. These are line items that were overspent. We are not overspent on the budget by any means, but what we are doing is just balancing the line item to reflect $0. And this is what we've done every single year. I'll entertain any questions that anyone may have or a motion that is on your paper.
I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize the refunds recommended by the Collector of Revenue.
Wrong one.
Wrong one.
Wrong one.
Go back a sheet.
This one.
There you go.
By recommendation of the Town Manager, I move the Board of Selectmen, sorry about that, approve the above action step 26-43 budget transfer 2026 27 totaling $206,311.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Selectman Bishop. Discussion?
Under social services, it says we're paying administrative salaries. I thought that was under a grant.
Let me just look at where we are going
On the
here.
bottom of the right.
Social services, administrative salary, $700. Hold on.
I may be mistaken, but I seem to remember that we had some excess funds from one of the grants, and we decided to use it for the part-time hours.
What it is
remember correctly.
our director, Jennifer Kelly, over at the Senior Center, does pick up an additional 5 hours a week to work on social services for our seniors.
Wasn't aware of that. Next one, where was it? Where did I just see it? Oh, animal control. If we went, why did we go over 10,000? Wasn't that budgeted? That's a contracted service we've been in a contract with Harwington for quite some time.
So when we placed it in the budget, we put it under contracted labor, but it should have been over into animal control. So we did budget it the right amount. We just need to move it to the right line item. That's all.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you.
7-0. Item B, 26-44, refunds is recommended by the Collector of Revenue, Town Manager Harrington.
Now you can go, Bill. As you'll see the amount totaling $3,006.65.
I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize the refunds recommended by the Collector of Revenue in the amount of $3,006.65.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? 7-0. Refunds are approved. Item C, Dock Ordinance, Chapter 380, proposed changes. Update, Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we left last meeting, the board had asked several questions, had asked our office to reach out to potentially attorneys. I mentioned that our town attorney was away on holiday, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to contact a attorney. I also questioned if I had the actual funds to pay for an attorney. It was brought to my attention that in our actual budget, it does not actually list town attorney, it just says legal services. So I felt it was just that I go out and get a town attorney opinion. I've talked to several people, not just on our land use boards here, but in other communities as well. And every person pointed to an attorney Brantz out of Holleran and Sage as the guru of anything wetlands and land use. I said, well, that must be the guy. I did have a conversation with Mark Brantz. I've attached the email that he has sent to me after we had our brief conversation on Wednesday, August 5th, basically stating that appeals process would not be able to go anywhere from inland wetlands. I'll also follow up that DEEP does have a hard restriction on maximum dock lengths of 40 feet. Even, and this was the surprising part, even an ADA complaint, meaning somebody in a wheelchair that potentially needs a longer dock, DEEP has a hard no, it cannot go any longer than 40 feet. DEEP has the maximum dock length. Attorney Brantz also noted that a lot of municipal wetland agencies impose a lot of shorter maximum docks of 12 to 20 feet. This was brought up at the last meeting. Fortunately, Inland Wetlands Chair actually had a meeting on my calendar prior to any of this. So Mr. Molinelli and I and a few other of his board members sat down on Wednesday of last week and had a very lovely conversation. We talked about enforcement, but more importantly, we also talked about the original proposal that Inland Wetlands had brought to the Board of Selectmen roughly a year ago. They have not gone back and looked at it. They do plan on going back and looking at their proposed changes and then coming back to the Board of Selectmen. It is my recommendation that at that time, we submit to Attorney Brantz, because I think we are on real great grounds with him and all his knowledge of state statutes. At that time, we submit our current dock and mooring ordinance. We submit the proposed changes or any other changes that may come up before we submit to him, and get Attorney Brantz to do a complete deep dive into our dock and mooring ordinance. But I believe anything that was being proposed, we simply can't do, based on state statute. So with that, I'll leave it, turn it back over to the board.
So I'll have a couple comments on this one. So last year, Inland Wetlands came here, as we all know, with their proposed changes. And at that time, we discussed potentially putting in a special exception as part of the ordinance. And we discussed it briefly, 1 or 2 meetings, and then it kind of just wasn't dealt with for a while. So I had several authorized meetings with our consultant town planner that we pay for his expertise. And during these meetings, we discussed this potential, and he was clear with me that there was not only precedent for it, but he represented as being our expert, that this proposal, which he actually drafted, was well within the legal rights of the board to do. So I brought it up to this board for discussion. We weren't making it our first of 3 meetings. There was no action being taken. It was being brought up here for discussion, because in the year's time since we first spoke about it, multiple people have come to me and said, hey, I would rebuild my dock if I could get an exception, but if I touch my dock, I'll have to bring it into current standards. That'll create a problem or a hazard for me. So therefore, I do what everybody else does. I replace it 1 board at a time. When something rots, I replace 1 board, because that's a repair, and they don't have to go before Inland Wetlands and get permission. So what we have are just docks that are like the, is it the Golden Gate Bridge, where the minute they're done painting it, they start painting it again? It's kind of basically what happens on the lake, is they rebuild their docks 1 board at a time. So it seemed reasonable, and again, based on the expert that we pay, and I do think that we are going to have to take, at some point, have a agenda item that reviews our relationship with Tai Chi, because we pay them to be the expert. I can be very clear that had we been aware, and I appreciate Cheryl bringing up the idea that we bring it to an attorney. I think that was well thought out. And had I had any idea that what we were proposing, or what I was bringing up for discussion anyway, was not legal, it certainly wouldn't have seen the light of day here, because who needs the pain and aggravation of going through it? So, that said, I agree with Paul and I have had a conversation. I think not only do we take the draft as it sits and any other changes that inland wetlands brings to us and the current dock ordinance and have it reviewed, because quite basically the same consultant that we pay is the one who blessed the original inland wetlands changes, and we don't really know whether he knows whether it's accurate or not. So I think the entire thing needs to go before this attorney. Let's find out if the current ordinance is legal, and let's find out if any of the other changes that are being proposed are legal. And with that, we can put this aside now until we get the next draft from inland wetlands.
Item D, Governor Lamont's announcement regarding speed cameras. Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did include the letter that the governor did send off to Post. I know this has also been on the media a lot as well. I saw it building a little bit. And back on August 7, the governor had urged municipalities to pause the installation while review is underway. I did include a memo that I put together. Hopefully you all had a chance to read it, digest it. We are very far along in the process. We have gotten our Connecticut DOT approval to put the cameras out. And in fact, if we were not installing these cameras on a state road, these cameras would already be installed. The cameras have been ordered. We're waiting for the encroachment permit, and these cameras will be installed. Why I put this on the agenda is because the governor came out strongly, not forcefully, but strongly, urging municipalities to potentially pause. Now, typically, since I've been here, I like to be lockstep with the board. I didn't want to get my encroachment permit and then immediately have the cameras put up. So I just wanted a brief conversation with the board. Do I still have the green light when I get the encroachment permit?
Well, from my perspective, yes.
Okay. Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Yes?
Yes.
It's sounding like no one's saying stop, okay? And again, I didn't, and I want to put this out for the record as well. If Post comes back and says that the governor should ban speed cameras, ban flock cameras, that's a different thing, and then that would take an executive order. Then we would be forced to obviously shut them down. But there is nothing that the governor has stated to date that we are breaking any law by installing our speed cameras. And this board voted unanimously, and I'm going to speak for the board because I was with them. This board didn't look at it as a revenue-making source. We needed to change behavior. And that's what we do. That's what we need to do on our main street. So I'm going to leave it open, but I put this on because it is getting a lot of media attention. There's the flock cameras. These are not flock cameras. And I think, Selectman Bishop, I think you said it best on social media, actually. Flock camera records a ton of data and keeps that data. And then they potentially sell that data, or you can get into that data. Speed cameras only record your license plate if you are going 10 miles an hour or above the posted speed limit. And that data is only kept for 30 days. And the only reason why it's kept for 30 days is because we have the 2-strike rule per the ordinance, that if you get hit with a citation, if you speed again in the same zone within 30 days, that $50 fine just turned into $75. But after 30 days, it gets wiped. And it's stored here, it doesn't get sent anywhere, it's secure, the information isn't being sold off. And need to make it clear that flock cameras and speed cameras, although taking pictures of license plates, are very, very different.
Other comments from the board?
Just have a
Cheryl?
couple questions. Is there any concern that DOT is going to stall on giving you that?
I hope not. We do have
I believe they have said they are not going to slow anything down.
Yes, I hope they're not. I've seen encroachment permits. Here's a great example. There's an old Winstead sign just down the street that EDC has tried to get taken down for years and years, and they need an encroachment permit. So I applied for the encroachment permit, and we're gonna get that sign finally removed down the street. That was 3 weeks ago. I still don't have the encroachment permit. Now, you have to remember, 169 communities all vying for encroachment permits because everybody has some town-owned or some state-owned land that they need to do work in. So to the Selectwoman's question, I hope not. I hope we get our permit tomorrow, and I'll have cameras up by Friday. But that is literally the last hurdle that needs to be done. Everything else is done.
How long has that application been in?
That application's been in for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I can get you the exact timing of it. We had to finalize everything, get everything, but it's probably been 6 weeks.
Historically, if we've applied for these encroachment permits before, what's been the time frame?
I've seen them turned around in 3 days, and I've seen them take 4 months.
Let me give you an example. I put in an encroachment permit for a state sidewalk that they will not pave, that the town is gonna pave. I just received it 6 months later. For a sidewalk that we're gonna pay for, not the state.
We're gonna install the cameras, not the state.
So if we were to pull back on the speed cameras now, is there any chance we would like be in a breach of contract with SiteStream? Owe any kind of money or anything like that?
Selectman Bishop, you asked the $1 million question. We potentially could be. Literally, yes. You asked the $1 million question. So this board did authorize me to enter into an agreement with SiteStream. SiteStream has done a lot of work to date. They've created the report, they've purchased speed cameras. We are committed to SiteStream. You know, they obviously share in the citations that do get issued. What recourse does SiteStream have when the governor has not prohibited speed cameras? We could be opening ourselves to a potential liability with SiteStream. Now, if the governor comes out and prohibits speed cameras, I think we're definitely under grounds to say we can't do it because it's against the law. So it's a great question. That thought did enter my mind, Selectman Bishop. So I think the board's directing me is go forward as you will, Paul. But if the governor, does something, be mindful and do what you have to do and act speedy. So great question, though. That thought entered my mind.
Anyone else? Just those concerned with data collection. Data collection is everywhere. If you have a Stop and Shop card, your data is collected. If you search for something on your phone, your data is collected and shared. Social media, search for something, your data, that's why you get all those ads for things you thought about because you looked at it on your phone. So data collection is everywhere already, but our speed cameras are not going to be sharing the data with anyone, so
No, it will not.
you can rest easy there.
There was a lot of concern this week on local social media that they were flock cameras. That was the post that Kevin and I both commented on to let people know that they weren't flock cameras.
I do want to address something. Selectman Bishop and I had a conversation today. He was questioning, I'm sorry, Selectman, what was the intersection again?
Well, yeah, on top of a lot of the, traffic lights.
Traffic lights.
Cameras on top.
There's a camera.
The corner of Wetmore and Park that I mentioned.
That was the street you mentioned. So the cameras that you see on top of traffic lights, if you remember back that there used to be a strip in the road that would activate the light or tell you that you're at, they have now switched over to these little camera things. They're not recording any data, so you'll note that lights are turning a little bit quicker because it recognizes that a car is now there and it'll turn the light because those strips that were going in the road have just been getting beaten up with the salts and all of that. So those cameras are actually not cameras. They're motion sensors to trigger the light to switch over, recognizing that a car is at the intersection. So I can say 100% there are no flock cameras here in the town of Winchester. And by the town of Winchester, I also mean Winstead as well. So.
Item E, veterans naming of town-owned properties. Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this was talked about at the last meeting. I did include a lot of correspondence. I went back into the vault, if you would, of this issue that was actually taken on in 2015. that a group of individuals were potentially looking to rename the park back in 2015. It did go to referendum, it did go to vote. It did ultimately fail. 91 opposing, 28 supporting, to change the name of East End Park. I will note a few things. That the land was conveyed, and the Historic Commission's gonna probably see if I'm right or wrong, and that's okay, because I did as much as I could. The land was conveyed back in 1799. And what we need to do is we need to pull the conveyance and the deed from when the town received the land, because that deed could potentially list dedication language, naming conditions, covenants, charitable trust restrictions, reverters, or any other similar restrictions. So one of the things that we go down in the ordinance is we need to look at the historical, value of this land. And because this land's been over here since 1799 and it was given to us, we do, and I haven't been able to locate that yet, but that is something that we will need to look into to ensure that we are on stable ground before we even entertain the idea of changing over the park's name. Questions?
Questions from the board?
No questions, but I'm definitely not in favor of changing it. I just want to make that statement out loud so everybody knows. And I did give an alternative and changed the Sue Grossman Trail to the last section. We're calling it Section 4. Section 3 is from motor vehicle to New Street, which was by Public Works. Section 4 is bringing it into the rest of the town. Call that Veterans Memorial Walkway. Put up the banners with poles, which comes right to Forest View Cemetery. And if you walk right into the cemetery, you will see all the veterans right there in line. The other thing is there's a spot on the green, and I just found this out, that is empty. And I know why it's, what was supposed to be there, what was the plan for it. I heard a couple of talks with the Historic Commission, maybe we do a woman's memorial there. Well, that was actually set up for the fireman's memorial. That's what that spot was supposed to be for. And I just found that out from a former person that worked with Public Works. Now, it can be changed, obviously, but it would be nice to continue that. Have one for the fire department, and then maybe another spot for the police department, because they've been around a long time. The fire department's been around since Abraham Lincoln was president. So, and the water system wasn't started for drinking water, it was actually started for fire protection. And I'm sure everybody, most of the people in there already know that. So just so that people at home, that's how the water system was started, was for fire protection, it wasn't for drinking. So I just want to come out and say that I think it should be left alone. There is Dudley Park, and I believe that might be with stipulations as well, because that was given to the town by, I believe, Dudley Vale. If I'm correct, I believe it was, and that Steve's Vale's grandfather actually donated that land to the town, so there might be restrictions in that too. So, and I know there's a whole list of where there's veteran stuff, but nothing says veterans. It's Soldiers Monument. It's the old cemetery, and it's just, and I get it. I was with the Historic Commission. All of us probably have somebody in our family that's a veteran. So I think it is important that we get something specific for veterans that actually says veterans. And it'd be easier to name the walkway and the bandstand than it is to change the road, the name of the road, and even maybe the change of East End Park. So that's just my 2 cents.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, on the
Yes, sir.
bandstand, that was donated by the Rotary Club. So before we go down, let's look to see,
That's what I'm saying.
It's an act of Congress, folks. It's an act of Congress.
It's just-
So before
it's a
we go down that road, I just.
snowball effect here. It's a
I just
snowball.
wanna, that is the
And that's
Rotary.
the problem.
Unsure, what came with when they donated the beautiful stand. So before we go down that path, if we go down that path, I just wanna put that out there early.
Let's find out,
So-
and then just see what you can do. I know it's kind of off the ordinary, but that's pretty important to some of us, as it is me, and even the Historic Commission. All of it.
So I'm the one that raised the idea, and I was brainstorming, I didn't realize the history. I've only been in town for 10 years, missed that. I am not advocating for that to happen anymore. But, and I agree that there should do something. Someone suggested to me, some conversations I've had over the last few weeks, that the path along the river has no name. That might be a very nice thing to name it, and we wouldn't have to go through any of this for it, because it's not a park, it's not a road, there's no state involvement. It would be a very simple process for us to do it. And if I remember correctly, I think the, citizen that came here who was advocating for this was looking for something specific to Purple Heart recipients. But we can double check on that. But, so that's what I would suggest, is, I can understand the bandstand, Rotary Club's involved in that, putting monuments here and there, that's, something else. But designating that walkway on the river might work. And if I've tread on anyone's feet and missed something, please let me know. But I would have concern about changing the name of anything on the Sue Grossman Day. That's already been named after something. So to parse it up into different section names, I don't know how comfortable I'd be with that. But
I almost think there, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I think that the Sue Grossman was, Sue's husband donated a little bit of money, and that's why they actually called it Sue Grossman Trail. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. That name has to actually stay, because that's something, and that started in Torrington. So then we crossed the lines. And by the way, the plan is to finish the trail into Winsted, and it is planned to finish the trail all the way into Torrington. They're gonna tunnel under Sinkhole Bridge, that corner. The plan is to tunnel underneath it and finish it, follow the railroad track. And that's exactly what this trail is too. It's the old railroad track, so just throwing that out there.
so that's my thoughts on that.
Troy?
So I'm sitting over here patiently waiting for them to finish. So after my esteemed colleague Cheryl brought that up, I thought it was a really good idea. If everybody knows that I'm very passionate about the veterans. I'm not a veteran myself, but I have most of my family members that are, and I'm the one that put the banners in East End Park. I contacted a lot of people that were veterans that are later in their years. They were very disappointed that less than 100 people voted to decide what's going to happen for the entire town. Within a couple days, I was able to get 100 signatures, and that's without even touching any of the family members of the 170 banners that I have in the park, which I will be getting and contacting. My intent was not to change the name on the state level. My intent was to put a sign up to honor them, because we are here because of them. We are able to do what we do today because of them, for their sacrifices. And if that's a small token of our appreciation, without disturbing what happens with the park, I'm not asking for change in the park. I'm not asking for anything to be different. It's just adding 2 words to a sign that will not cost the taxpayers any money. I will take care of it. And it would be just an honor for them. I do not want to go to the state and change the historic outlook of it, and I don't think they do either. They just want it to be something that they can call their own. All the monuments for the wars are in there, the banners are in there, the flags are there. We go on Memorial Day and we read off the names of the dead soldiers that were in Winsted, that died for us to be free. I think it's appropriate.
So the other opportunity we have is we can get another monument like we do have in the park, place it at the park. Dudley Park is for George Dudley. I looked that up.
Okay, thank you.
We can place it there. We can place a Purple Heart Memorial at Soldiers Monument. So there are other options that we don't have to have acts of Congress to get through. So there are options available. Anyone have anything else?
I think it's very, very important that we take care of our veterans and honor them. And I think the best way that we can honor them is by making sure that they're not taxed out of their properties. I think that we should be spending our time developing the Mad River. We should be pushing the bar grant along. We need to get Main Street under control. I mean, it's withering on the vine. We're losing big businesses like the Gilson and, the Mexican restaurant, etc. We've lost so many things, and like our job here is to take care of those kind of things. And I think that it's wonderful to name something after the veterans, and I think that the Selectman Hester has been giving us a great answer for weeks now, you know, with the Sue Grossman Trail. I mean, I'm totally in support of that. But I think our job here is to look after all the people in this town to make sure that those veterans aren't taxed out of their homes. The last 3 years, we've had these big tax raises on them because we don't have the development and the revenue coming in. And why are we spending time talking about renaming a park when this fight has been had over 10 years ago? And that's not really that long ago. I mean, it was a big fight then. And, you know, as far as the signatures, I mean, you know, if you came to my door and said, should we name the park after veterans? Of course, I would say yes. I think that's a great idea. But when you put the history behind it, when you look into the history, the historical perspective, and most obviously the fight that's already been had about this, I want to spend our time supporting veterans and everybody here by doing what we can as the Board of Selectmen to push this town forward and make sure that in the coming years, these poor veterans and everyone in town don't just keep seeing tax raise, tax raise, tax raise. And so that their grandchildren, and if they still have children, I mean, I have veterans who live right down the street from us that have, you know, an 8 and 10-year-old. Like, they need to have schools and for their kids and grandkids that they can, you know, afford to live here, afford to send their kids to good schools. That's how we need to support the veterans. We have 13 veterans memorials listed right here in our packet already. I'm all in support of naming the path or the Sue Grossman Trail. That's wonderful. We need to support them. But we need to spend our time on what really matters here. We spent a lot of time in the last few weeks talking about lengths of docks, talking about renaming a park that already has a name for over 200 years. Like, let's do what really matters.
I believe, and Town Manager Harrington, correct me if I'm wrong, I think a disabled veteran doesn't pay property tax on the house or the property.
That is correct. That's a new state
That's
law.
a new
I don't want to
state
say
law.
maybe a year or 2 years ago
That's
was
correct.
they are exempt. Yes.
Thank you.
So if I can just follow up on that, I agree with you that we need to move Winston forward. But our job is to not just do that. If I have one resident come in here and complain, I got a call from a resident about this meeting today at work, and I paused my work. If I have one resident complain, our job is also to respond to that resident. So if I have one veteran coming in here and they're looking for something, I'm gonna spend time on it. And if we gotta sit here for an extra half hour, well, you know, we all like to rush and get out of here by 9:30. We're here twice a month. If I gotta be here till 1 a.m., so be it. So I kind of disagree with that statement. Yes, do we need to focus on that as well and move forward and try to push the town forward and develop everything? Yes. But I also care about every single resident of this town. I've had tons of them approach me I've never met before in my life. And I'll always take the time to list them, and I'll bring it up here if I have. So if we gotta talk about something 2-3 times till we get to a resolution, well then, that's our job as well.
I just don't want to send our town down the same fight that they had 10 years ago. I was not part of that fight, but I've read a lot about it, and it was...
Well, I think the correspondence we got tonight, because we brought this up, put a lot more clarification on the history of the park, and maybe this fight will not come up in the future in another 10 years because we took this up.
All right, moving on to item F, Conservation Commission request for the use of NIP funds. Town Manager.
Mr. Mayor, do I have any action that this board needs, or is this item not clear, right?
There's no action to take.
Excellent, thank you.
We didn't have an action
Good enough,
step.
excellent.
Conservation Commission request for the use of NIP funds. Town Manager Harrington.
So this was a last-minute agenda, was ready to get walked down to the town clerk's office, and Mr. Carter, Chairman Carter, walked in and said, hey, can I add an item to the agenda? His item was, as usual, they do a big fall cleanup. In the past, they literally personally funded items for their fall cleanup. It is scheduled this year for October 3rd. They would like funds to advertise printing expenses, the purchase of trash grabbers, the purchase of a high visibility vest, food for the event, and possibly some t-shirts. I did talk to Mr. Carter and stated, could this be a reimbursement of $1,000 from the NIP bottle fund? He said he would be fine with submitting receipts, that we wouldn't just give him a blank check for $1,000. I said with that I would take it to the Board of Selectmen to see if we could get an authorization of up to $1,000 to be reimbursed for any items purchased for the fall cleanup. Plus it gives the town the discretion if they go out and buy something that we didn't see that would be used for the fall cleanup, that we could reject it as well. I'm not thinking that the commission would ever purchase anything that wouldn't be used at the event, but we do hold at the discretion that we don't have to actually authorize if they bought, I don't know, dog food. Obviously, dog food isn't going to be used the day of the event. So before you tonight is to authorize up to $1,000 of nipper bottle funds to be reimbursed to the Conservation Commission for their fall cleanup.
And that does fall under the appropriate uses of the nipper bottle program.
It couldn't hit the bullseye any clearer.
Absolutely.
So I'll make a motion to up to $1,000 out of the nip bottle fund to give to the Conservation Commission.
Can you just change that to reimburse the Conservation
To reimburse
Commission
the Conservation
with,
Commission.
after receipts are turned
After
in?
receipts are turned in.
Thank you.
Thank
Is there
you.
a second?
Second.
Thank you, Selectman Bishop. Any discussion?
I've helped them before, so please come out and help them pick up the garbage off the streets as well.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous?
Thank the Conservation Commission for their hard work and dedication.
You definitely will.
Item 11, executive session, discussions regarding the sale of town-owned properties at 19 Hill Street and the Rollins Hill project negotiation updates. Taking with us the town manager. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Second. After we come back.
After we come back.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I think Cheryl first did it.
Yeah. And it is 8:26.
Just to the board, I'm going to need 3 minutes to just set up on the computer, or the TV in there.
Kill your mics. It's 9:41 PM. We are back from executive session. Item 12, new business, possible action regarding the sale of town-owned property in 19 Hill Street.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to enter into contract with Mark LaPointe for 19 Hill Street to set a town meeting at Thursday, September 17th at 5 o'clock.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, I'll get that scheduled.
Item 13, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak.
Thank you.
Item 14, selectmen's comments and reports.
I think that tomorrow night is going to be an interesting night.
Yes. Encourage people to come out to the Board of Ed meeting for the special meeting on the study.
On the study, which I printed out, and I actually have it right here. I'm ready to go. There will be no questions, though.
You may want to mention it's available on
No
The, or is it a public
That's,
forum?
that's to the
Board of
developer.
Ed special meeting.
Special meeting
Special
on,
meeting.
they're gonna do the PowerPoint presentation.
Correct.
On YouTube, is Charter 2? YouTube and Charter tomorrow night at 7
YouTube and
p.m.
Charter, and the study that, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the study that Selectman Hester is referring to, if you go on the town's website, I'm sure it's on the Board of Ed site, but
It is.
I know the town's website, if you go to the Board of Ed agenda, that study has been attached with the agenda as well, if you want an advanced look to be able to be informed for tomorrow night's meeting.
And let's not forget the Fireman's Carnival this week. I believe it starts Wednesday night. Sadly, I won't be in the dunking booth this year.
Why?
Representative Case, I'm sure will be, so you can take your aggression out on him. Fireworks Friday night,
Friday night.
parade Saturday night.
Correct.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks, everybody.